Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And our sponsors are Alpha Claims and Hire, Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company. Get a replacement car anywhere in 1 hour. I really appreciate you joining me today, and these two stories are very similar. They're in relation to large seizures of drugs and also encrypted phones. Potentially EncroChat or a similar device. The first story is from Exeter and it involves a crime gang that ran what the police say is a £500,000 drug operation from a sleepy village. They have all been jailed for a total of 16 years. Lester and Jake Purdy and Julian Eslick were arrested after police swooped on a house in Ide in May. Officers found £200,000 worth of cocaine buried in nearby woods and seized deactivated firearms from the property. They found £74,000 in cash also seized at Exeter motorway services the same day. 4 men were jailed at Exeter Crown Court on Friday, November the 27th. Lester Purdy, aged 66 from Station Road, admitted to conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and possession of ecstasy and cannabis. He was sentenced to 7 years and 8 months in prison. Jake Purdy, 25, of the same address, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and was jailed for 3 years and 4 months. Julian Eslick, 46, from Exeter, admitted the same charge and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Trevor Forbes, 58, from Oxford, pleaded guilty to money laundering and was jailed for a year. The 4 were arrested after a drug warrant was executed at an address in the local area on Monday, May the 11th, when thousands of pounds worth of Class A drugs, cash and firearms were seized. Officers located 2 kilograms of cocaine that they found in the woods. So they estimated this earlier, as I said, at £200,000, and that would be the bare maximum they could get out of this. If they did have kilograms, the chances are they wasn't selling them in small amounts. So it would probably be less than half of this as to what they would actually have sold it for. Detectives also found between February 2019 and 2020, they laundered £260,000, they believe, and that is how they've come to the conclusion that it is a £500,000 drug empire. So the laundered money is very hard to prove. It's already been spent and it's a very inflated way. So the police can release information to say that it's £500,000 when in fact it's probably 300,000 at best, altogether including the drugs. The investigation into the organised crime group dates back to early 2020, and Detective Inspector David Eakin said the operation was a large conspiracy to supply drugs and it was managed by Exeter CID. The pre-planned firearms operation in May led to the arrest of 2 men from the Purdy family who were in possession of 2 kilos of cocaine and 74 grand in cash, and a Range Rover, a Jaguar and 2 deactivated firearms and various other criminal property was found in the raid, which included encrypted mobile devices. The large-scale operation had a significant impact on the otherwise quiet and ideal village that they lived in. The investigation team worked tirelessly, they said, over 6 months, gathering information and progressing associated caseloads while linking in with the community in order to gain more information. The investigation demonstrates, he says, that in periods of COVID lockdown, Devon and Cornwall Police will safely investigate any drug offences and bring offenders to justice. The villagers had become suspicious of the 2 men who were renting a property that was owned by the church in the local area. Police then started to put surveillance on them in order to gain more information and ended up discovering the 2 kilograms in the woods. I'm not sure if any of the EncroChat phone was intercepted. In this case, it doesn't specify that due to the fact that it's not in the London area or Birmingham, so it wasn't part of the major operations in relation to EncroChat. It could potentially just be they found encrypted phones with them, and the phones themselves didn't go towards the case. In the second story in this video, coming from Portsmouth, a £6.4 million street value amount of cocaine was found, along with a pistol with a silencer and 50 rounds of ammunition was found on a rented farm in Portsmouth. They also used encrypted phones and specially adapted vehicles with secret hiding places. The highly organised gang cut cocaine and distributed over a 12-month period, the jury heard. Opening the case, the prosecutor Mark Ruffle said this part of the crime group were responsible for the distribution of £1.5 million worth of drugs. The wholesale bulk value buy worth of cocaine around the UK on a weekly basis. They've been doing this for at least a year, they said in court, and searches prior to October the 2nd last year equates to approximately £70 million worth of cocaine going through this gang. Jurors heard they raided clamped-down stables in Newtown, west of Denmead, after months of surveillance following couriers and alleged members of the gang. Inside the leased unit, officers found a caravan, Volkswagen box lorry, a modified white Mercedes, a Vito van containing £6.4 million worth of cocaine. DNA on the 63 single kilogram blocks was linked to Jason Stanley, who was 20 years old, from Cowplain. In a false bulkhead in the van was a Tesco bag with fingerprints also from Stanley on the outside, a handgun and 50 rounds of ammunition and a silencer in the bag. Swab testing found DNA matching Stanley on the silencer. The court heard the caravan was the main workshop to prepare the drugs that had been leased by the drugs warehouse manager Lee Matthews, who is 37 years old, from Denmead. He assisted Stanley in the illicit operation. So it was very similar in some ways to Breaking Bad. They used a mobile home in order to be able to make large amounts of drugs even bigger. Both Matthew and Stanley admitted to supplying cocaine between October the 1st, 2018 and October the 3rd, 2019, and conspiracy to supply amphetamines and Class B drugs. They both denied possession of the firearm, ammunition or the silencer, and on trial also is James Bakes, who's 41 years old, from Purbrook. He denies conspiracy to supply cocaine and is not charged in relation to the firearm, but is accused of assisting Matthews. The court heard Stanley was arrested as he drove in his Fiesta near the farm, and police found 4 kilos of cocaine in his vehicle on October the 2nd last year. Police searched the back garden that Stanley had with his girlfriend in her home in Cowplain, and they found £100,000 worth of cocaine and around 1.5 kilos at import quality. Matthews handed himself into police on October the 8th after officers visited his home in Denmead on October the 2nd. Court heard they found the encrypted phone and nearly 1,000 grams of amphetamines was tipped off by his girlfriend, leading him to flee to Luton. Mr. Ruffle said the runner was stopped on July the 3rd last year with 10 kilos of import quality cocaine, and Mulvoy on April the 17th was arrested with 6 kilos of cocaine. In September last year, Mulvoy admitted possession of cocaine with intent to supply, and also the other runner admitted the same charge in August. These men were prosecuted before the police knew the full extent of the operation. And continuing with his opening statement, Mr. Ruffle said both Robert Hay and David Mulvoy collected drugs from Hampshire and took them to different parts of the country. The cocaine distributed nationally at import grade and was being distributed from Portsmouth and the Waterlooville area of London to Leeds, Liverpool, Bristol, Plymouth, West Midlands, Norwich and Essex. After David Mulvoy's arrest, it would appear the organised crime group changed its method of operation. Instead, couriers for the customers around the country would come to Hampshire to get the drugs, and George was one of them couriers. The solicitor defending Matthews told the jurors that there was no evidence of large sums of money being paid to his client. Stanley's barrister, Hugh French, said that it was hardly surprising his fingerprints were found on the bag of the gun, as it was in a drug factory that he'd been operating in for several months. He had no knowledge or control of the gun or ammunition. Tom Nicholson said that Bakes, who denies involvement in the conspiracy, was lawfully working as a surface manager in Winchester, and the evidence has been misinterpreted. The trial is due to last 3 weeks, and if it's anything like the last trial, they are definitely expected to get large sentences. I really want to hear what people have to say on these stories. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. I'll get back to as many people as I can in the comments, and please don't forget to join us on social media as well at Scarcity Studios, and I'll be back again very shortly with some more news. Peace.